When we go out to eat, we never agree on where to go.
I want burgers! Pizza.
Tacos it is.
The one thing we do agree on is we all want unlimited high-speed data. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 lines with unlimited LTE data for just $100, period. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Offers require port and of number not currently active on T-Mobile network. During congestion, the fraction of customers using more than 35 gigs per month may notice reduced speeds. Video streams at up to 40p. No tethering. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Stop jumping on me. Why are you doing that?
Having a bad dog day?
Rex, come back here.
From police dogs to pet dogs, from potty training to pet peeves, #1 best-selling author and 30-year canine trainer Andy Falco knows how to get to the meat of what's eating your dog. This is Falco Canine Dog Talk, the show that helps you and your dog create a relationship of love and respect.
What a good boy. Good heel, Rex. I love you, Rex.
And now here's your host, Andy Falco.
Thank you, Christopher. This is Andy over at Falco Canine Academy and at the Train the Dog Trainer show. I am your co-host, Andy Falco-Jimenez, with
Cameron Thompson. I feel like there should be streamers or balloons or like
I know.
of some sort. Anywho, it'll carry on.
we're gonna have to work this out a little bit better,
right? A little bit.
Well, if you haven't guessed, this is our very first show together as co-hosts, and so our goal, at least from my point of view, and Cam may have a different idea, our goal is to just make you better dog trainers overall, not just in the area of training dogs and human beings, but we want you to make money at it and do it well. What are your thoughts, Cam?
I concur, and I think very much we want those dog trainers that are part of our audience to really just become happier, whole, healthier people in general, to really love the work they're doing and to be inspired to think bigger and more outside the box.
Yep, and get out of their own damn way of being successful.
Exactly.
And so I have been doing the show solo for a little while and have set up a couple of things in regard to getting your business started. If you are new to dog training, on how to start the process of becoming a dog trainer, such as volunteering at shelters and rescues, determining what kind of dog trainer you want to be, what kind of dogs you want to work with, and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to assume, at least at this point, as we are starting fresh as co-hosts of this show, we're going to start with the evaluations, which is one of the things that I think is the most important thing before you determine what path you're going to take with a dog owner and their dog. Regardless if you're going into group training or they're going to go into board and train or they're going to drop the dog off, just for a couple days with you, it's important for us to take a look at the dog and give you a really good idea, or give them a really good idea of what it is the plan is going to at least start off to be with their dog. Is that about what you use an evaluation for?
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that it's a really, really important opportunity for you to assess your prospective client, how coachable they are, how well you connect in your communication, how receptive they are to you as the professional, because the relationship you're entering into hopefully is for the long game. And the last thing you want to do is get yourself connected and, enroll somebody in the services that you have to offer simply based on the fact that you have that menu item and you can help the dog. But then that owner, an integral part in that dog making progress, that owner is not actually on board or ready to do the work you need them to do. Everything kind of falls apart. So we really look at the evaluation as an opportunity, or, I also call it an interview for that very reason, because it's an opportunity to really interview your prospective client as somebody that is a person that you can work with well, and that you're going to be able to co-create all of these positive results in their dog with. So yeah, absolutely. You're getting to know the dog. You're getting to cut some things off at the pass and make sure that it's a right fit for you and that potential client. But you're also having, a really, really important opportunity to get to know the human being in the mix here as well.
Correctamundo. And so let's start with the phone call, that is going to set all this up. And this could be somebody just merely calling your office for the very first time, or it could be maybe somebody sent you an email, and now this is the response to the email on the phone call. Perhaps I don't think you should do it over an email. I'm thinking that you should do it at least at minimum over the phone, where you're actually talking to them and you can respond to their questions. And so what I want to do is talk talked a little bit about this process, about what it is that you need to, as a trainer, take away from this conversation. So what questions probably should be asked and what things you should be listening for. And also, I think, don't forget that this is the time that you're going to show them that they've called the right place, right? And so that is an important aspect. So do you think, Cam, what do you think are some of the things that somebody should take first into consideration, maybe even before they dial that phone and call the potential client?
Well, I think, you kind of nailed it. There's a few different systems or processes that trainers nowadays can set themselves up with in order to ensure the most seamless dynamic with a new potential client and the most seamless, enrollment into an evaluation. And so whether that is that you have a contact submission form on your website and you're gleaning a bunch of information about these people and their dog before making contact over the phone or in person, or you have a system to have them call you directly first and foremost, you really want to kind of take a big picture look at everything that you can assess so far up, before you get into one-to-one contact with them. So if in our case with my company, and many of my clients, I coach them to ask really great questions on their website contact form so that they already have a decent picture of whether or not this is a right fit client for them and whether they can help these people to the fullest extent possible. So we ask a lot of really great questions in the contact form, and when we can see, the level of interest, the level of engagement, the level of need, we also can determine, how much we need to get on the phone with them or how much directly to scheduling the interview. There's just, I would say, pros and cons in both directions. I think that's more of what we're endeavoring to bring to the audience today by sharing this podcast about evaluations is you can create success, right, in multiple different formulas. But some of the things a lot of, trainers are not thinking about are that, if you don't make contact with folks over the phone, you don't have the opportunity to create that personal, connection with them, you're likely to see a reschedule. Maybe they'll cancel for the evaluation if you've merely scheduled it, via sort of an informal email reply, something like that. So there is a great opportunity by picking up the phone and getting a hold of those folks based off of a contact form or returning messages. You're going to be able to warm that relationship up a little bit and create a little more personal connection that will motivate them to follow through, right? I think a lot of our client prospects with dog behavior issues are really stressed. They're really struggling. These things are keeping them up at night. And so there is a sense of urgency for 99.9% of our clients in wanting to get connected with the right professional and as quickly as possible. That doesn't mean that you just accept anyone and everyone, or that they aren't responsible to do, their piece of the work and they hold up their end of the bargain in, being respectful of your business, and that there may be some delays and whatnot. But it does mean that you have an opportunity to alleviate some immediate concerns, to make a connection that will encourage their patience if you cannot meet with them, for example, right away tomorrow, where there's a bit of delay in enrolling their dog in your services. So I like that you brought that up. I think that's really important. I also find that if we get a really solid contact form, we're able to send an email response and a phone call outreach to those folks and pretty much 100% convert them to scheduling an assessment, just by letting them know all of the value that will be available to them by meeting with us for a free 30-minute, evaluation. And that's really, getting them in the door. It's getting them in front of us once again to warm up the relationship, make sure we're a good fit for each other. And then we have an opportunity to prescribe the right services by seeing their dog in action and seeing their relationship play out in front of us.
Yeah, you brought up a good point there when you said the word value, that this has value. And what I would encourage, and I'm not sure what you do, Cam, and I probably should know before I even say this, but what I encourage, I encourage everybody to do is actually, even if you plan on giving it away for free, is that you put a value on it. So our evaluations are $250. That's the evaluation. And in the call, I don't give away the fact that I could possibly be giving, a free evaluation until I am sure that they deserve a free evaluation. It gives me a starting point. So at some point, somewhere, it says, a $250 value or evaluations are $250. And then in that conversation, I can choose, to discount it to 50%. I can give it away for free. Sometimes it is important to have people pay something and then give it back to them in a reduction of whatever the training cost will be. So we've used it in a lot of different ways. And so if you give it a value, then you don't have to, then you give yourself a lot of flexibility on how to attract your customers. And there is also the aspect in sales business, no matter what it is that you're doing, is that if they don't pay attention. And so there has to be something that will, with some people, they need to pay in order to show up. And then if they show up, then you can give it back to them in a discounted, group training or board and train or something like that. What is your cost for an evaluation, or what is the value of your evaluation?
Yeah, I would say it's $229, so it's close, in terms of talking about putting a price tag on it. And I totally agree with you. You have a lot of versatility when you put a value on that service. It is your time. They absolutely do, run the risk in an evaluation or an interview of being something that gets, extended beyond the allotted time. I mean, how many dog trainers do we know and talk to all the time who are struggling with time management and getting stuck in sessions and not cutting things off early? It's really interesting to just, have a discussion with them about, well, why don't you just bump your price up to what you're worth, and then take the pressure off that you aren't, that you aren't out of there on the hour, for example. There's different ways that you can approach that. But the evaluation for us is something that we definitely can put a price tag on in the context of a giveaway. We know we're going to talk about that here in a little bit as well. It's something that we put a price tag on in the context of, getting folks interested in working with us, enrolling with us, or connecting with us through other marketing platforms that we utilize, or community outreach events that we utilize. But before we get into that, I would say, for us, I've done it both ways over the years, had it be an automatic paid service, and I've also had it be a free function of our company. And, I really like what we have going right now, which is that we, will charge for a one-to-one assessment appointment with somebody, and then we credit them back, just as you implied, towards a larger service offering that we might provide, like a board and train. If they enroll into a board and train, for example, and they've invested in that prior evaluation fee, then they're getting a couple $100 credited towards that bigger picture service. And it's been worth it for everyone, because we've had a chance to make sure it's a good fit relationship, and they're motivated to follow through on that bigger ticket item. So you can definitely go either direction for sure.
Yeah, we do a lot of, we do something called the Pet Expo in Orange County. I think something like, 20,000, 30,000 people show up over the weekend, and it's all pet-related products and vendors and services and that kind of stuff. And we do 3 shows a day of demonstrations of police dogs, detection dogs, and pet dog training. And during that show, where we have like 100 or 200 people watching, one of the things I use our evaluation for is I say, during the show, that by watching the show, the first 25 people who go to our booth and sign up will get a free evaluation, which is normally a $250 investment. And so the first 25 people to get over there to sign up and want to follow through and make sure that they're actually going to be there, and we talk to them, then you will get that for free. We've also said that I've used it in other ways, where it's on a Facebook Live, where I'm doing a Facebook Live about pet-related stuff, and then I say, for watching this Facebook Live, give this certain code, whatever code I've given it for the day, that if you call our offices within the next 24 hours, you will get a free evaluation, which normally is $250. And so that's one way of using it at special events.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's super smart.
Thank you. I like it when you say I'm super smart.
So smart. So smart.
Yes. Do you do anything with veterinarians or maybe other folks in regard to shelters or rescues, that if they come, if they're referred to you with a certain coupon or anything like that? Do you do anything like that?
I don't currently in my company, but I think it's a fantastic idea, and it's a great way, especially if you're early on in your business and you're trying to, network and build things up. Nothing is, off limits in terms of potential value. You never know where it's going to lead. So I have some connections with vet offices about our company and our rescue work, and we do encourage the relationship and connection with other rescues to send fosters, for example, to our free community class, which is where we would also provide an evaluation. But we run it a little bit differently in that context. So we're not, we're not one of those companies at the present time that has anything going in particular with, any vet offices to utilize our evaluation. Just different partnerships in regards to the rescue work, I would say, if anything. So it's a great idea, though, for somebody who's starting up. Give everything you can. Really create, some creative offerings that you can, walk in and hand a simple little postcard handout or something about your company, and your assessment valued at, as Andy indicated, $200 or whatever, and that, you're offering this for free as a promotional item. You're very likely to get some great, leads contacting you and interested in what you do and finding out about you that way. Gets the ball rolling for sure.
Yeah, it works out really good for us. We have a little flyer, obviously, that talks about Falco Canine Academy. Then we have a card that gets stapled to it, and we use a code that's it's unique to whatever vet or groomer or mom and pop pet store has their name in it somehow, one way or another. That way we know where the referral came from. And after I've talked to them and I've convinced them to put these things on their their front counter and to hand out. Our more active veterinarians or vendors that refer us business, I often go and visit them personally and take them things like Starbucks gift cards. I've taken them those fruit bouquets, those types of things. I've taken fruit bouquets and chocolate chip cookies, and just will stop by and say hi. Hey, I want to thank you we got a referral the other day from you, and I wanted to thank you, and I go and take them stuff. So that stuff goes a really long way, especially the receptionists at the front counter. They like to have that stuff, and it seems like it's not that big of a deal, but it really is. I mean, they really do like that you can't wait. Nobody else comes, not even the dog food people that try to get us to sell Science Diet come and bring us crap. But we come and go there and give them things and thank them for doing it, and it really goes a long way. So it's a really good one. We've consistently over the last 10 or 15 years, we've sold out almost all of our classes all the time. And most of that comes from our relationship with the community in regard to veterinarians, groomers, and mom and pop pet stores. The reason I say that is because Petco and PetSmart and Petco have their own dog training, so you can just forget about going to them. But some of the smaller pet companies, like even Kreiser's, our cards are in Kreiser's. Kreiser's is a chain of pet stores, but they hand out our cards and our flyers very readily, and I take them stuff all the time.
That's awesome. Yeah, it keeps you top of mind. It's really the key ingredient that a lot of, professionals underestimate. And it's why, drug company reps go in and bring lots of goodies and these sorts of things, because it really does make an impact when the staff knows about you and has you sort of top of mind when they're working with a prospective client and in an exam room, et cetera. It's a very, very smart tactic, especially when you're building your business up from scratch and you don't have a lot of folks that know about you and what you do and where you're located and things like this. So absolutely great ideas.
Yeah, good companies do that. I'm looking at right over to my right. I'm in my studio, which is also my garage. But I got 2 fold-out chairs that say Canada on them, because Canada would often visit our office and drop off, fold-out chairs and all kinds of knick-knack things. And of course, we sold a lot of Canada because they were giving us stuff. All right, so let's move on to now, just on the phone call. What information do you start off with? What do you think we should tell them that is of course, their name and email address is important. How they heard about you, did they hear about you through a referral? Did they hear about you from some event they were at? So you want to know if your marketing is working and where it's working. So you want to ask them those questions. But let's get right to in regard to the dog. What do you think? How do you think this should start with somebody and their dog? Like, what kind of beast do you have? Is it killing you, or what's the first question you think should be asked about their dog?
Yeah, I think the question is, how can I help you, right? Like, what is in their mind the biggest issue? What is in your prospective client's, mind and life and experience, the most pressing issue and priority for them? So it's a pretty darn simple question, but a lot of trainers forget to ask. A lot of times it's really easy to get on a call and just start, going through diagnostics and telling people that they're doing everything wrong and, deciding that their lifestyle is not appropriate. And so your priorities are their priorities and they're not. So I think the very first thing to start with is, how can I help you? what is, going on in your life with your dog that, you'd like to see improved, and let them tell you their story to a certain extent. Let them share with you where they're at and what it is that is the reason for them reaching out to you, and see how that plays out as well. I think it's very interesting once you do get in front of someone, whether on the phone or in person, versus what they might have provided for you in an email or a voicemail or a contact form, right? Sometimes when we're on the spot, we can just think about that in terms of conversation with a friend or a coworker. It's a very different dynamic to just casually connect and converse and shoot the shit, as it were, once you're in front of somebody, and you get a little more authenticity, I think, than when they're behind the keyboard carefully crafting their answers. So I like to really, have an opener or a lead that allows them to, really dump and give me a clearer picture of what their vision and perspective is on the problem and the potential solution. And then from there, I can ask more diagnostic questions about their lifestyle, the dog's backstory, who that dog is from a genetic, characteristic standpoint, and personality, temperament, things like that. So many of our clients, I don't know about you, but so many of our clients they're rescue dogs. They have a lot of cumulative stress. They have transitioned, through multiple lifestyles and environments and lack of consistency. And a tremendous number of our clients have a rescue dog. And so there's a lot of missing information there that kind of perpetuates a lot of behavior struggles that they're dealing with. And it's really helpful to get a sense of this person's lifestyle and what their expectations were when they brought the dog into the home versus the reality of what they're bumping up against the dog needing. So, it's a really long way of answering. I ask them, what's up? what is going on? How can I help you? Right. And then let them take the opportunity to feel heard, and that they have, in fact, expressed their main concerns and their main objectives in finding a trainer.
Yeah, you said just now, feel heard. And that was what I was going to talk about, is that I want to encourage you to actually listen to them. Sometimes we can get into just taking notes, right? It's a German Shepherd, it bit the neighbor, it pulled down, their daughter when they're on for a walk, and you're just writing down stuff. But listen to what they're saying, how they're saying it, whether they have a connection with their dog or not. You'll have maybe the wife call, and she says, this dog, it was my husband's idea to get this dog, and now I'm stuck with everything as far as taking care of the dog. And if I can't get this dog obedient, I'm just going to have to give the dog away or euthanize it or something like that. And I think you learn a lot by how it is they're telling you the story about the dog, so that you can really have a better feel about what's going on, because that very well could be the issue that you're listening to. If you're listening, you can actually listen to what the problem is. Here is the problem, and almost before you even see them how you could fix it. And maybe in some cases we could actually almost fix it over the phone. But I just want to, I kind of went off track there, but I just really truly listen to them, because their voice inflections, the words they use, how they say it, they may not be as bold as saying this dog's a piece of crap, but you really got to listen to what it is they're saying, because that will be very helpful to you. And it will help you determine whether you want to do business with them at all. And I know that we're probably going to get to this on several podcasts, but you don't need to do business with everybody that calls your office. And so it's just as important during this very first few moments of listening to their discussion about their dog, that you're evaluating whether they're good for you, right? If they're going to be,
correct.
We call it a PETA. A pain in the ass.
There's a PETA for that.
If they're going to be a PETA customer or not, you want to make sure and say, I understand what you're saying, but you know what? This is not probably a good fit for our training program. As a matter of fact, I have a referral. She's in the San Diego area. Her name is Cam Thompson, and she would love you. And you kind of pound them off. But the part about listening, I think, is really, really important.
Yeah, it is. It is super important, and just, figuring out what their main, what their main struggle is, and then what's stopping them. Because to be quite honest, so many of just human behavior wise, so many of our clients really shouldn't have to meet us. It's kind of the reality of things. But, because of how we establish bad habits and crummy process and so on and so forth, it's really important, I think, to understand what's stopping them. Why haven't they figured it out? Why haven't they, come across just the sheer, clarity of making a decision that they're going to make it work and end a behavior that's happening? So there's a whole lot going on behind that. That will give you a lot of insight as to how, this, like I was saying earlier, whether this person's really coachable, how ready they are to step up to the plate and make the adjustments they need to make in order for their dog's behavior to change and remain consistent as well. So, those are both really important questions. What is their struggle and priority and objective, and what's stopping them? What's getting in the way of that?
Yep. One thing I want to know is the history of their time with their dog. Of course, you want to know where the dog came from. Does it, have they had the dog since a puppy and that kind of stuff? But in regard to what I'm talking about is, what other trainers have they been to? What training systems have they tried? What training techniques have they tried? I want to kind of get into that a little bit. There's a couple things, obviously, that you can get from that are important when you see the dog. In regard to whether they've used a pinch collar, an electronic collar, if they're just mostly a food-based training, if they've used clicker training. You want to kind of figure out a little bit more about that history of what they've used and what's worked and hasn't worked, at least in regard to their eyes. But also you want to know if they're trainer shopping for somebody that just agrees with them. What I've found over the years is you have people that have been to 4 or 5 trainers, and what they're looking for is a trainer that just simply agrees with them. And they don't want to hear the truth about their dog. And so there's one little nugget there that I think is important. You won't find it very often, but I found it enough to find that it's a problem, that they're just hopping from trainer to trainer, and no matter what you say, you may not be able to make them happy. But that's really good information to have. Again, that's one of those things that's on the side of whether you want to work with them or not, because if they're going to be more of a pain in the butt and they're going to be disruptive to a group class, for instance, you may want to reconsider that. But the history of the dog and their training, I think, is important. Have you had any stories of that becoming an issue?
Oh, definitely. I've learned over the years from making plenty of mistakes in, working with clients that were not ideal, that it just is never worth it. Ultimately, it's better to really pay attention, really listen to your intuition and your gut, to really be solid in who you are and what your, process is and, what you bring to the table, so that it's very easy to say no when it's not a good fit. One of those clients in particular is the only client I've ever fully refunded for a service. Just fundamentally as a policy, that isn't something that we offer at all, but you can imagine the dynamic, and just how significant the unfortunate struggle was in that relationship, that it was the best case scenario for me to just make it right in that way and cancel the contract and refund the client, which is, that's a gut punch for all of us, right? So, those clients it's not worth it. It doesn't pan out to be something that is just, oh, well, I'll figure it out and do the best I can. When you don't listen to your intuition about a relationship dynamic and a teaching, coaching scenario with somebody, you can really be in a world of hurt later on. So, and it just wastes them more time. It costs them more heartache as well. It's all around not a good thing. So that is thankfully a very rare experience for us over the years, and especially as time goes on and really hone our skills in this regard. But we're also dealing with people, right? So if it happens to you as a trainer, it isn't a reason that you need to decide that you're horrible and you can never be in business for yourself and you should just close your doors and go get a desk job. I think it's really important for, trainers, especially new trainers, to realize that, this is just an opportunity for you to hone your skills, to hone your intuition, to, really work on your assessment and perception and reading people, that is a critical, integral part of the business and industry. You can't just be a lover of working with dogs and succeed as a trainer. It doesn't work that way. And so if you're making mistakes and you're ending up with clients that, are not following through with evals, or you're evaling them and getting them into a working relationship and it's getting messy and miserable, this is the time for you to sort of put the pause button on and do some deeper work to really get in touch with what am I missing when I'm in front of these people? What questions am I not asking? What am I not looking for that's really important to me, being clear about whether or not we're going to have a healthy and, you know, to use a cliche, balanced relationship with each other all the way through to create the greatest success for them and their dog. So I just kind of wanted to slip that in there because I think, you know, I get a lot of clients in the coaching realm, you know, who are really discouraged when they've had a bump in the road and they've run into a relationship where, you know, it's a disastrous scenario, or they're really frustrated and exhausted by somebody who's kind of sucking their will to live. And it's like, this is just an opportunity for you to grow, right? That's how you need to look at it. Spin it. Don't feel like, you know, you can't get it. You can't do anything right. This business and industry is horrible. No, it's just human behavior. You have to have an element of that in your education as a canine behaviorist. And so it's a great area to highlight that you've got some gaps to work through and, you know, some things to study and really dig into about yourself and about how people work. That's what it's telling you. So don't ignore it, but also don't run from it. It's something you can correct and right the tide, as it were, and really get better and better at honing, you know, your intuition, just only accepting and working with people that are a really good fit for you.
Yes. So one thing I want to guard people about, because we're still just talking about the first phone call, right? I know we talked about a lot of stuff, but you can learn a lot.
We're going to be doing a lot of shows about this topic.
Yeah. So this is just the first phone call, and you're going to be asking a lot more questions when you actually get to them personally. But
some of this crosses over. I mean, you know, I could easily argue the point that some of this very much crosses over. Sometimes, you know, you're getting on the phone with somebody, right? And you get a few questions in, and then, you know, the baby's crying and they got to go, or they were driving to the grocery store and they really can't talk to you right now, but they're all in for wanting to meet with you. And if you feel like, you know, well, great, whether you're charging or you're not charging and you want to move forward with the meet, some of this stuff could totally cross over, I think, too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and I'm not negating anything you're saying. I'm just saying I want our listeners to make sure that this doesn't turn into you know, a 2-hour-long conversation you're having with somebody for free, and they're sucking up your time. One thing that I've had to do many times, because after a while I ended up, you know, fortunately for me, I had assistants who took care of all these phone calls and went through them. But I would come into the office where a couple people were on the phone, and I would go to my truck or do something or go to the kennels and work with the dog, come back, and they're still on the same conversation, you know, 45 minutes later, and I'm looking at them going, this is not necessarily what I pay you for. I'm paying you to get the people into the door, not to talk to them on the phone. And so not my limit, but what I generally told them, I said about a 10 to 15 minute phone call really is what you should shoot for in order to get somebody to give you the, you know, the schedule, the actual face-to-face. Because if I didn't do that, I'm telling you, it's not only is it on my employees, but the people just want to tell you their whole life story, and not just about the dog. They want to tell you about their divorce and about the children and about their aunt and uncle who had a dog that was very similar, that was much better than the dog that they have. And you can really get really sucked into these conversations. And as much as you may like these people, you got to run your business a little bit more effectively, because there are other things that need to be done. And I think it's really a good way to begin shaping your relationship with that customer, that you are in charge and that you have a system of doing things. And it really, this is where it starts on this very first phone call. How do you feel? Do you let people kind of gab on for a while, or do you kind of manage that talk a little bit more?
No, I definitely manage that. And when I talk about this, I talk about it in terms of who's leading. And don't let your client lead. Don't let your client lead in the conversation. It's really important, because it can really change the course of what you accomplish in your work together. And it can really become a burden and a drain on your time, you know, that you have together, whether on the phone or face to face. So there are some strategies in communication with people, particularly on the phone, but certainly also in person, where you can take that recognition that they're starting to run on and get into off-topic stuff and really bring them back to center. And it's a great display of boundaries. I think that's that's really what you were highlighting when you were saying it's, this is an important element of how you're establishing your relationship with this person. It's really about having healthy boundaries. Like, hey, I get that life has been really kind of, a struggle for you lately, and I really want to help alleviate some of that stress. We need to stay on focus here about the ways in which everything kind of comes together as pertains to your dog. I mean, I could think of a million different ways to phrase and articulate and guide somebody back to home if they're getting a little off track in a conversation. But, it's really important at the end of it all that you are just very clear and frank and that you're setting a boundary. Don't be afraid that, you can't simply say, I really do understand that you've had a lot going on in your life, but in order for me to help you best, we need to stay focused on, the elements of your relationship with your dog that are going on right now. Or, this topic of how we're going to eliminate these behaviors and reduce some of your stress and where I can help you in that. So, feeling free to interrupt. I will often have to do that. In fact, I'm much more comfortable about it than a lot of people are, but it just takes time and practice. I'll oftentimes, though, interrupt somebody and go, you know what, I need to stop you there. I totally understand this has been really stressful and a major drain on your family, but I want you to know that it is going to get better by focusing on this one thing at a time, right? And so in that way, you're bringing them back to the conversation, you're keeping them on track, and you're giving them something to hold on to as to why that's important, in case they would otherwise just feel like you're an asshole and you're trying to, negate their feelings and that things are really, really cooking for them and are really a struggle. So I will try to both, create that clarity that I hear you, what you have to say matters to me, but in order for us to get you the relief you're looking for, this is the direction we need to go. And I've never had an issue with it, right? I've never, ever had somebody like, well, geez, you're a real piece of work. I think we're done here. Never. Everybody just wants to feel heard, and they want to feel like what they have going on is important to you, and that you see them and care about it. And you can say that very directly, but also lead the conversation by letting them know the thing we're going to tackle right now is the dog and the behavior that's immediately pressing for you.
For some reason, what you were just talking about reminds me of marriage counseling. And that
there's a lot of, if I had $1, I often get asked about my spouse training program when that's coming out, and my kid training program when that's coming out. There's a lot of, yes, there's a lot of that, which is why dog trainers, you've got to accept and embrace the human psychology element of what you're doing. You have got to. You cannot simply play with dogs all day. Unless you've got really great team, you've built a team and people who are coaching the humans on your behalf. I mean, it's just, it's otherwise absolutely crucial to be leaning into both sides of the coin, I believe.
Yeah, and if you want to see success, if you really, truly, if you just want to train a dog to sit down, stay, and come when you call it, that's something else. But if you want to truly see a change in a dog's life to where the dog actually becomes a fun, happy member of that family, and they actually take the dog out of the backyard or out of the house and take them for a walk once in a while. If you really want to see that, you have to be a good human trainer. You have to be a good human communicator and understand the importance of creating a relationship. If you can't do that, if you're not interested, then just train TV dogs that the wave of the camera or something like that. But if you're in this to make a difference, then you've got to embrace the human aspect of it. And again, we got to save some stuff for other shows. All right, so
I know, right?
So we're going to get to the end of the call. We're going to end it, fairly, within a reasonable amount of time, 10, 15 minutes or so. Again, that's my preference. You can choose what yours is, but I would say that you want to get them, to a place where you can get them some information as to where you're going to meet. Choosing the right place to meet, I think, is important. If you have a place, that's one thing, obviously, where they come to you, which we've had in most of our life as a dog training facility. We've had kennel places where they could come to our office. We've had training sites and that kind of stuff. But now I work out of my house, so now I have to tell them, where they're going to meet. And so if I have an aggressive dog, that's going to be different than if I meet a dog or meet a person and their dog that's not aggressive. So always, obviously, some of the things we're going to say is obvious, but you don't want to take an aggressive dog evaluation to the dog park, right? You don't want to be there with a bunch of other dogs, a bunch of other people, necessarily right in the middle of things. If you're going to do it, you got to make sure. That's
Common
part of your
sense.
plan. Yeah, and so you got to make sure that when you make this meeting place, that it is a place that fits into where you're going to get the most out of your evaluation. So make sure and have a plan for that. And so make sure that you know where all your locations are that you're going to use for evaluation, so you can send them the address where they're going to meet, and even send them the link to the Google Maps or whatever it is. Because I can tell you, we've done just about everything in this area of getting people information, and we still have people that would get lost. We would send them an overhead view, a helicopter shot of the location they were supposed to meet. We'd send them directions from all the local freeways. We'd send them a link to the Google Maps, and they would still call us, hey, I can't find your facility. And I go, it's just right off the freeway. How can you not find it? But you got to do your best, because you'll get blamed for them getting in a car accident and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent.
This is also a first test screening opportunity of whether or not your client is coachable and can follow directions.
Yes, maybe I didn't look at it the right way. Maybe that's what I should have said. No.
I think you might be helping a little too much. No, a little more than I would anyway, that's for sure. I'd be like, if you can't find me based off of technology nowadays, I don't know if you're going to be able to work with the tools I'm going to kick out with your dog at the end of this program. So there is definitely a balance there. It's really, I think what Andy's really getting to, though, is good customer service, period.
Yes.
Like, I mean, come on, really bend over backwards to set the stage and make life, smooth and easy for your client to work with you, so that their impression is that of ease. But if they're really, really falling apart still, in spite of everything you've given them and all the ways in which they, again, could help themselves, I think this is great insight to pay attention to. And you may have some red flags firing here, just in the form of, their travel struggles and the evaluation follow through.
So yeah, we have a pre-typed out, form letter that goes out in an email that has all of our information. It has all the links to the training sites. It has our phone numbers to get a hold of us. It has everything that you think somebody should have to prepare for the evaluation. We tell them to be on time. We tell them that they're going to get a call the day before to remind them of the meeting. We also have PDFs of some of our history, and maybe even some to get ready. This is how you get ready for the evaluation. Make sure, I tell them not to feed their dog before the evaluation, not because we want them to be hungry, but dogs with a full stomach coming to something like this, the stress could cause them to bloat and things like that. So we want to make sure the dog is safe from any kind of issues that may come up out of nervousness and being afraid or anything like that. So we give them some direction on what it is they're to follow into coming. Don't forget a leash. I've had people come to evaluations without a leash, so then I had to put in the email, remember your leash. I have them bring the dog in the collars that they normally use, because in many cases people will put a pinch collar on a dog, but yet the dog has never been in a pinch collar, right? They'll put a choke chain on the dog's never been on a choke chain. They'll put a harness on the dog, and the dog has never had a harness, but for some reason they think they have to do something different to come to the evaluation. But I want to see the dog as it is when it's at home or when it's having the issues. So I make sure to give them direction, tell them to do this thing, whatever that is. Have your dog come to us in the garments that it wears. But do not forget a leash, do not forget a collar, because you are going to need that. And bring the dog's favorite toy and the dog's favorite treat. And so those are some of the things I put in our email. And if there was something else, I forgot what it was, but that's just make sure in your email you have all the information that you need to come to the evaluation, so you're not having to dig in your truck or your car to look for something that they forgot.
I would add too, that for one thing, I would say, when you're structuring that prep email or a PDF document, plan for the lowest common denominator. That's the rule of thumb here, right? Like, plan for the lowest common denominator, meaning is exactly as Andy has articulated, even details that you think should be common sense and simple, write it down, because you've got people who are not going to think about it. The other piece is that is an opportunity for you, in the same way the phone call was. That email confirmation is an opportunity for you to seed or set the stage for a sale and an enrollment. So in that email, you can also be saying, we're really excited to connect with you and meet with you in this face-to-face experience, whether it is free or it is charged or whatever your choice is. We really feel like your dog is going to be a good fit for X, Y, and Z, or to reiterate, here is the page about our services, programs, and pricing. Like, there are many different ways that you can use that body of work and communication to seed another layer of connection to what they are showing up to, to work with you about. I've had many trainers make this mistake, and again, it isn't as warm a dynamic. The evaluation either gets canceled or no shows, or once they're together, the potential client starts asking for all of these questions that should have been easily known and understood had the information been presented to them in that written format in the confirmation email. So just to like really round out that opportunity, it's another place for you to be seeding your services and your diagnostics on this dog at that point. If you have a really solid sense this is somebody that you want to work with, why not make it, again, really easy for them to feel very well, heard and taken care of, and what's the word I'm looking for? Prescribed for the thing that's going to really get them on to the next level and resolve these issues that they're struggling with. So that is an opportunity, and it's oftentimes one that is missed, even in a follow-up email where, you have a chance to share with people. Maybe you have an offer that you give that says if they, one of these urgency sort of things, if, oh, by the way, just a reminder, we do offer a $200 discount if you, register or enroll your dog in this program during your evaluation. So, just heads up, you have this great opportunity to take advantage of, our services and save some good money. If you're, prepared to do that, come with any questions you might have about what that would look like for you, right? So now we have a client who's already like, whoa, I want to save $200. I'm like, cards ready, already talked to my spouse about it. I know I want to do this thing. I'm just going through the motions. That's essentially what happens for us 99.999% of the time. We have somebody walk in the door. They know they want to give me a bunch of money today. They just are excited to meet me face to face and really make sure that like we're human beings and the environment is something that they're going to be comfortable with and to answer any remaining questions. But they're very motivated to save that money as well.
Yes. One thing you just reminded me, and I'm glad you did, is that you want to also have what I call it the timeshare strategy, where you want both the husband and wife there at the evaluation at the same time.
Yeah.
That way they can't say, well, you know what, I'm going to go home and ask my wife and see what she thinks before I write you a check. It's good to have them both there. And as a matter of fact, I encourage them to bring as many family members that live with the dog as possible, because you can really get some really good insight by having everybody there. Because everybody has their own point of view on what's going on with this dog. And it is a little bit even entertaining to hear them tattle on each other about, well, she lets the dog.
He's going to have a hard
the
time
dog.
with this.
Yeah, there's a little bit of you have to manage more people during your evaluation, so that's, but I've learned to do that fairly well as being a police officer for 21 years, so I actually got pretty good at it. But
handle the crowd.
It's good information. There is a little bit of entertainment value there, but you will learn a lot by having more of the family there, more of the pack of people that live with that dog there. And I think that would be something that should be in the email, that to bring as many of the family members there as possible on that particular day. As a matter of fact, maybe even try to schedule it so that it's more advantageous to more people being there. But that'll be up to you on how to do that. Have you found that also, or is that not a factor with you?
No, I do think it gives you great insight. We require it 100% for dogs at their go-home sessions when they're completing an intensive program with us. We require everyone's there. It's not an option to just send one, family member and then they're going to go tell the other one how to do the things. In the evaluation, we encourage it. I'm not as much of a stickler to have them there, but it's also because a lot of my company is very virtual. And so many of the evaluations or assessments can be done through Skype now.
Yep.
A lot of our clientele are not local, in which case it is really unreasonable to ask them to come by and have an in-person assessment prior to also, flying or driving their dog out to us for, a 3 or 4 week stay. So in that case, I want everybody together because there shouldn't be any reason that they can't be. But I feel like as a human researcher and behaviorist, I'm really strong in that regard. I can gather enough info to understand what the dynamic is at home, even if I can't see mom stressed out and distracted and overwhelmed by the kids. If I know the kids and their ages and I know, some details about the lifestyle, I have the picture in my mind, and it makes it really easy for me to speak to that struggle that she's experiencing and to that being pulled in multiple directions. But I do totally agree with you. I think it's really important. And I think this brings up a question that I would bet money we're going to get asked, which is, what if you're a trainer who goes to people's homes? What if you're a trainer who currently or intended to be going into people's homes for their evaluation? And, should you concern yourself with everyone is home and I can see the whole family dynamic? And that also is like a really important aspect of this conversation, because it ties back into valuation of this appointment and putting a price tag on it. If you show up to someone's home and you haven't had them invest in a cost for this service, you're really, really increasing the chances of struggling to get them to pay attention and to participate properly, because you've not only made it so easy for them to stay in their pajamas and sit on the couch and wait for the doorbell to ring, but you've also enabled them to potentially leave the television on, have the children, running amok and whining and cranky and unfed, and all of these different things that could cultivate a very frustrating environment for you to not be able to coach and counsel and enroll. So if you're not going to charge for your assessment, your evaluation, or your interview appointment with your prospective client, and you're going to go to their home, you've got to have mega good boundaries, folks, in my opinion, in order to make that a smooth sailing, productive experience, and really hold folks accountable that they understand in writing, like I said, lowest common denominator, that these are the do's and don'ts of how to come to the evaluation with you. And that they may in fact want to have a helper person with the kiddos or something like that in the home for this appointment, so that you can really have their undivided attention, and be able to make some progress with them about what their next steps should be. So I've definitely seen that be a common mistake as well. A lot of trainers are going into the client home, which can be very convenient and wonderful if that's your thing, or you don't have a facility or feel comfortable meeting people. Maybe it's dark, right? Maybe it's not daylight and we can't, do a park meeting. There could be many reasons why that is your process, or at times something you need to do, but there are definitely systems that can be in place to make that still successful and not a frustrating waste of time for you, and to ensure that your client is really empowered to get the most out of their time with you as well.
Nice. I got two things.
Bam.
Bam. I got two things. One of them is, don't forget to journal. I'm telling you that it is something that I have been preaching since I was a canine handler at Anaheim Police Department many years ago, is that just journal, write down notes about what it is you're doing with your dog, what you're doing with your clients, what you're doing on the phone. Have it all on there, because some of what Cam just brought up was, the lowest common denominator is the one that you're going to have to deal with. And most of the rules that I have in our group training class, because we send out rules before you show up. Read these rules, like don't spit sunflower seeds in the parking lot, don't cuss, be respectful of your fellow students in the class. It's because I had people that were not courteous of the fellow students in the class. I had people bringing sunflower seeds and spitting them all over the parking lot of the places that were allowing us to train at.
Amazing.
And so that came from notes after class, and I would say, make sure and put this in the rules. But having something available, not only just the form that you're using to take notes on the evaluation itself, you want to have your journal handy so you can remember the things you need to remember, both negative and positive. To get to just always understand how it is you're going to run future classes or future evaluations. So make sure and journal. And then the second thing is that I'm realizing, Cam, that we should be charging for this information that we're giving.
Yes, we should.
If I would have had this, I would have
right?
paid. I would have paid $100 just for this conversation.
I know, it's really good stuff. Our audience doesn't know how good they've got it right now, and this is just the beginning. But it is really cool to have technology on our side these days, and the opportunity to share information like this and to really help unlock some strategy and really ease some struggle that some of our trainers might be experiencing currently. And the reality is, there's so much more where this came from, that if they want to get access to it, they just need to connect with us outside the broadcast. But really, really good info. Super
I like how your voice does that when you say so much.
So much.
Yeah, so sultry.
Right.
Also, Cam and I have been talking about putting together a not necessarily a conference, but what do you call it? A workshop for trainers, and figuring out how we're going to do that. If you're interested in that, if we have an audience for it, I'm more than happy to work even harder to put something like that together, like a 3-day workshop for trainers in developing their business. And again, I want to make sure that you understand that my interest isn't just making you a dog. There's so many good dog trainers out there, but there's a lot of good dog trainers that don't know how to run a business or have fallen short of running a successful business. And that's my goal. I'll give you whatever it is, knowledge, every mistake that I've made. I'm unfortunately, I think sometimes honest to a fault. We'll tell you all the stories and the bad stories, just because I don't want y'all to go through what I had gone through for a very long time of being successful and being failure, being a success and then having failure. And if I could minimize the failures for some of you, that would make me happy. That's what I feel that my future is, and that is helping others be successful. So I think a workshop of some sort would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we definitely have some things coming together that will be really valuable in terms of talking about the mechanics and dynamics of, the business side of things and also the human relating components. And most entrepreneurs are really kind of crappy at business at first, don't you think? I mean, I think within our industry, it's just not that dog trainers really think of themselves that way as entrepreneurs necessarily, at least when they get going. But, that it is such an incredible way to grow yourself, to stretch yourself, to make yourself crazy uncomfortable, and also really get to know yourself when you become an entrepreneur. And, not everybody embraces that opportunity. They really fight it. And I think you could go through a lot more struggle unnecessarily in those circumstances. But yeah, our desire is really just to pool the information of past mistakes and successes and really create a hub where folks can get excited about having quality insight into setting themselves up for success from the start. It's going to be good.
Yes, I run 2 masterminds where we have everybody from chiropractors to pest control operators that I along with 2 other partners, we help them run their business. And it's just like they did not know that they were going to have to know anything about accounting or about lead magnets or about landing pages or about how do you use a CRM or how all these other tools, right? And so I think it's important that you connect in either a mastermind group of some sort that you can get some help with all that stuff, because we can be really good at the thing we know. If it's dogs, great. If it's chiropractic, great. But it's the business part that causes us to fail, right? And even no matter how good you are. So we could talk forever, but if you are interested in some type of workshop that we're going to put together for trainers, which I would love to do, we'll just give them my phone number, 714-990-9010, 714-990-9010. Carlene is my assistant. Just let her know that you were listening to the podcast, that you want to be on the list for a Train the Dog Trainer workshop. And that way we can have a good idea that actually somebody would be there. I wouldn't mind if Cam and I just went in a room and just started talking about dog training, but it would be great. It would be great to have a couple of people there.
We'll just keep recording. Yeah, I think the deal is that you need to say it's happening, and then they're going to lose their spot if they don't get their ass in here and like really make it happen to register, right? You know what I mean? I feel like our urgency is missing here in your pitch. So I'm just going to compliment that a little bit by saying this really cool thing is happening. If you want in on it and to claim your spot, you need to get on the phone and let us know. Otherwise, you're going to miss out because it's going to fill up and sell out. That's what happens when we put our heads together and create things. And so we want to make sure you understand it's not like, if you think it might be groovy. Andy sort of he didn't mean to say that. It was an accident. He was just sort of, offering for the lowest common denominator.
No, so I'll be honest with you. I was only doing it that way because I had not even talked to you about it, really. So I want to make sure it was okay with you off the air.
That's right. You're just learning that you shouldn't underestimate here. You just got to go for it. You have my full support, sir.
I also realized that I told you as co-host what I wanted to have as a conversation, and I found myself interviewing you at the beginning, and I tried to manage that a little bit better later on. I don't know if you felt that. Yeah, thank you.
You did great. We're good.
All right, so let's close this out. We're pretty close to our end time. We're at 57 minutes. We said 45, so we're good.
There we go.
So I hope you guys enjoy our Train the Dog Trainer podcast. Make sure and let us know on one of our Facebook pages. Probably the best way. Just let us know what your thoughts are. Send us a message or something like that. We do have a Facebook page called the Train the Dog Trainer Facebook page, and we'll make that more easier to find. We'll put links in the podcast description, that kind of stuff, and maybe that will be the best way for us to communicate. So both Cam and I see it at about the same time. That would probably be a good way to do it. What do you think?
That sounds very fair.
Okay. All right, that is it. We haven't made any kind of off the air thing like from the desert to the sea to all of you a good night or anything like that. What do we say?
This is a good question. We'll work on that and we'll get back to everybody about it, I think.
All right then. Later dogs.
Make good choices, everyone. Make good choices.
Oh, I got to leave it at that. Make good choices. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Falco Canine Dog Talk, the show that helps you and your dog create a relationship of love and respect. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address at www.falcocanineacademy.com and like our Facebook page at facebook.com/Falco Canine Academy. Follow us on twitter.com/Falco Canine Academy and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Falco143. And remember, if you've got questions for Andy, call the K9 line at 714-798-9961. That's 714-798-9961. This is a production of Falco Enterprises Incorporated. All rights reserved.
Wow, nice haul.
Told ya, Macy's Backstage has perfect last-minute gifts.
With prices so low, you never need a coupon.
I scored the perfect makeup palette.
Super cute. I grabbed these cool drones for the guys.
Nice. Here's a handbag for Aunt Helen.
Found awesome toys for the kids.
Cookware for the budding chef.
Oh, and look what I got for Uncle Hank.
A puppy chew toy?
No, that's for Rex. They even have gifts for pets.
Well, Uncle Hank, he'd love anything we gave him.
Macy's Backstage, savings for everyday life. Details at macysbackstage.com.